If you've just been told you need progressive or varifocal lenses, or if you just want to learn more about them, this is the video for you, because today we're going to be covering everything you need to know to get the right progressive lenses for you. So hi, I'm Robert, Style and Vision Consultant here at the Spectacle Factory, and it's my job to pair you with your perfect pair of glasses. So this video is going to be broken down into two distinct parts. The first part, we're going to talk about all the technical details about progressive lenses, and in the second section we're going to be looking at the different lens brands out there and some of the best progressive lenses that each brand makes. We all get to a point in our lives where we need separate glasses for far and close. Around about 80 years ago, progressive lenses changed the landscape of glasses, allowing people to have multifocal lenses that allowed them to see at all distances clearly with no visible line on them. Of course, before that, we had bifocal lenses, which had a very obvious split with a far distant zone and a near zone. But even bifocal lenses weren't really meeting the needs of everyday people, because we don't just look in the far distance and up close. We also see at mid distances, for things like the computers, for the dashboard of our car. And that's where progressive lenses really change the game, because they allow you to see, in theory, at every single distance. Hence the word progressive. There's a progressive change in the focus from the far section to the near section. Although that doesn't mean that they're perfect. Let me explain. So with progressive lenses, there are essentially three zones. Technically, there's an unlimited amount of zones, but we can divide those into three. The far vision zone is for seeing things far away. That allows us to see clearly and naturally into the far distance. And that is generally positioned in the top section of your glasses, in line with your pupils, so that when you look straight ahead, that's nice and clear. Conversely, the reading section tends to be in the lower part of the lens. And that tends to work when we come to read our phone. We can naturally look down through the lens and see that clearly. And the bit in between, so this is kind of like the middle third of the lens that's somewhere just below your pupil but above the bottom of the glasses, is the intermediary zone. And that is clear for things like my laptop here at this kind of distance. So that tends to be just below eye level, so that if I'm looking just slightly downwards, I will see that clearly and naturally. If you follow those principles with progressive lenses, they will work for you. It's just when we have situations outside of those norms that they can fall down. So an example would be if you're doing DIY at home. If you need to hammer a nail in at close distance and you're looking upwards, that's just not going to work with progressive lenses, because you really need to be looking like that, and it's just not feasible. And the big disadvantage with progressive lenses, the bit where so many people struggle nowadays, is with their computer, because if you're on a desktop computer and you're looking straight at it, you're looking through your distance zone. So you're not looking through the focus that is set for that screen, and therefore they just won't work. Now, for a while, you could raise your chin, but if you're working on that screen for 3, 4, 5, or as many people are 8 hours a day, it's just not going to be good for your neck and your shoulders. And that's where separate glasses come in. Check out our recent video where we covered office lenses, for example. If you have a lens that changes focus from the top to the bottom and there's no visible line, there theoretically, according to the laws of physics, has to be some distortion introduced. But over the years, the R&D departments of the world's best lens brands have been working tirelessly to reduce those distortion areas and give you a wider, more natural field of view. And all of the big lens brands have achieved that. But exactly how do some manufacturers make one progressive lens better than another? Aren't they all the same? Well, it would be a little bit like saying, aren't all cars the same? Aren't all mobile phones the same? They all do the same thing, but for the majority of people, they're going to enjoy the newer technologies much, much more. But how is it done exactly? Well, there are two aspects to that. The first is the actual research that goes into making progressive lenses better. So companies like Zeiss, for example, who are ultimately a research-based company, but not Zeiss exclusively, will do what we call wearer trials. They'll come up with an idea. How can we theoretically improve this lens? They will make modifications to the lens, and they will test it with 100, 1,000 people, and they'll see how high a percentage of people prefer the new design to the old design. Let's say you buy the most expensive progressive lens in the world. It's never going to be 100% perfect for 100% of people. But at the same time, could you say it's better? Absolutely. There's more research and more technology that's gone into the creation of that lens. And speaking of the creation, that's where the second point comes in, because how physically are the lenses made? Well, around 20 years ago now, there was a revolution in lens manufacturing with something called freeform technology. And this enabled the use of a diamond point to actually accurately carve out a unique prescription across millions of data points across the surface of a prescription lens. Sounds like science fiction, but it is actually true. That means, for example, in my lenses, which are Zeiss Smart Life, every single pixel, as you can imagine it, across this lens is slightly modified in the focus so that I get the most natural vision possible. And it really does work, but only when backed up by a good lens design. So those two aspects are equally important. The theory behind it and the practice in the manufacturing. So with that background out of the way, you pretty much know the basics, the fundamentals of progressive lenses. How do you get the right one for you? Well, in a moment, we're going to cover the different lens brands and the best progressive lenses that they make. But first, I want to talk to you about the lens alignment and measurement. You can think of your progressive lenses like a suit. You can take a suit off the shelf, and the chances are, if you pick the right size, it's going to fit. But if you take that suit and you have it modified, it's going to fit better. And if you have a suit made bespoke for you from scratch, it's going to fit perfectly. That's kind of how progressive lenses equate, because the more measurements are taken in the production of your progressive lenses, the more natural and the better fitted they will be to your eyes. If your optician is using a ruler, a cross, and a pen that they draw on your glasses, that's kind of a red flag, because as good as that optician might be, as experienced as they may be, it's just impossible to be completely accurate using that method. To align your head with the wearer's head perfectly, both up and down, but also accounting for parallax error, and kind of understanding their individual habits and how they stand and their posture, it's just not feasible. Believe me, I did it for many years. You want to look for an optician that has digital measuring equipment. And there are different levels of that. I would say the best in the industry is the Zeiss VisuFit 1000. It uses 9 distinct cameras to take a 3D scan of how your glasses fit to your face, and it is super accurate and precise. But other brands like Essilor, who make Varifocal lenses, Rodenstock, Hoya, they all have their own measurement equipment. And most of the top brands do have digital measuring systems that will work very well. But some are better than others, and it's important to remember that. And if you're thinking of ordering progressive lenses over the internet, well, you're playing a dangerous game, because the chances of you guessing those measurements, or the optician who makes them on the other end just guessing at your measurements, are really small. Yes, you might end up with glasses that you can use, but will you end up with glasses that give you the maximum potential of your eyes? Absolutely not. It's just impossible. However, we have developed an approach for virtual consultations, which is proprietary to us. I can't give away too many secrets, but it involves you supplying photos of yourself from the front and from the sides, and using that data, we're able to calculate exactly how your new glasses will fit and take all the measurements we need to get them perfect for you. So assuming you get the most accurate measurements possible, what are the best lenses to choose? Well, we're going to be covering the best lens brands right now. And let's kick it off with Essilor, who make the Verilux series of progressive lenses. Now remember, I mentioned that Verilux invented the progressive lens. There is a little bit of controversy in that, because Zeiss were definitely also involved in the early progressive lenses, and there were opticians involved in creating the concept before Verilux actually brought one to market. But to be fair, they were the first to bring it to market and start selling it. And therefore they have the longest history with making progressive lenses. And that is one reason why they are the lens manufacturer of choice for most opticians in the world. Essilor has merged with the Luxottica group, so it's now called Essilor Luxottica. That means a lot of optical chains are actually owned by them, and they're going to push you there whether you like it or not, because that's their brand. A lot of people don't realize that the lens manufacturer would actually own the physical store that you're walking into, but that is a thing you have to be aware of. Anyway, their latest progressive lens is called the XR series. And there are a couple of fundamental pillars to this technology. The first one is the nanoptics technology. Remember, I referred to those pixels before on the lens. Nanoptics is a way of using those pixels to create bundles of visual areas to give you a greater depth of field when you're wearing progressive lenses. The concept is, the theory is, that, remember I said there were kind of distinct zones for far, intermediate, and near. Those very much are supposed to cross over with XR lenses, so that if you need to read closer at intermediate distance, you kind of can. And if you need to read a bit further away at the bottom of the lens, you kind of can. In practice, I don't think it's been as revolutionary as they acted like it was when they first brought out this lens, and I think that is a theme with Essilor. They spend the most by far of anyone on marketing lenses. But that is not to say that they aren't excellent. Essilor make extremely good lenses. If you get an Essilor Verilux lens, you're probably going to be happy with your progressive lenses. Having said that, I have found that the newer series of Essilor lenses, the S series, the X series, and now the XR series, are very hit and miss. So I get some clients who've worn them and absolutely adore them and think they're the best thing ever. And I get clients who just say they couldn't wear them. And that seems to be more polarized with this series of lenses than any other that I've experienced before. It's a bit of a coin flip, but if it works, it seems to work. They're also mentioning something called XR motion on the new XR series, which apparently optimizes both lenses according to your prescription and your predicted visual behavior. The idea is that they're balancing both lenses together. And of course, the buzzword at the moment, artificial intelligence, using 1 million data points from eyeglass wearers so it can predict everyone's visual behavior. This means we can optimize the lens for how you see, not just your prescription, to bring you instant sharpness even in motion. What this is referring to, just to break through the hyperbole, is the fact that varifocal or progressive lenses, they can be modified in different ways. So you can juggle the zones of vision. You can make some zones larger, some smaller. You can put them at different positions within the lens. Different people in different age categories with different lifestyles, they will all prefer slightly different designs to each other. So the idea is that rather than the optician or you choosing that lens design, AI does it for you. It's not a new thing because we're going to move on to Shamir Autograph Intelligence. Shamir is an Israeli lens manufacturer and actually one of the most innovative lens designers in history. And they were the first to pioneer this artificial intelligence used in their progressive lenses and in exactly the same way as I've just described. Now guess what? Essilor owns Shamir. So therefore, of course, they're going to use Shamir technologies in their flagship lenses. That kind of goes without saying. So would you really now get anything from a Shamir lens that you don't get in a Varilux lens? It's doubtful. Their Autograph Intelligence lens is not necessarily very new now, but it was innovative at the time when it came out probably about 5 years ago. And it is a good lens design. It works very well. It gives extremely good clarity. It's something that I would recommend. But do they do anything particularly special? I think they're probably in need of a refresh and an update. Next up, let's look at Hoya. Now, Hoya is one of the lens brands that I love to recommend most. I think they produce excellent quality lenses. They have purchased Seiko, which we're going to talk about in a minute, and those are part of a group, but I think that was a natural synergy with both being Japanese lens manufacturers. The market's only so big and they've kind of decided to work together. I don't think that's quite as aggressive as Essilor's strategy is we're going to come on to. But Hoya's best progressive lens is called the ID Myself. Bit of a weird name, and you'll see a theme here that lens manufacturers are not necessarily the best at marketing. But the ID Myself is a fantastic lens design that builds on Hoya's innovation in dual surfacing technology. So you remember we talked about those pixels that you can think about within the lens. Well, what about if you could actually modify both surfaces of the lens? Hoya were the first to pioneer that with their ID technology, and that's why this lens is called the ID Myself. It stands for Integrated Dual Surface Design. And if you think about it, that gives them twice as much pixels to play with. In theory, they could be twice as good. It isn't as simple as that. And actually, because the front surface of the lens is further from your eyes, that does throw in its own complications that the back surface of the lens then has to clean up. But Hoya lenses, for those who like them, and a lot of people do, I would say most people get on with Hoya lenses. They're a very easy lens brand to wear. They will find the lenses extremely natural. And ultimately, that's what a lot of people want. Are they the sharpest in the world? I don't think the clarity lives up to a couple of the other brands, but how natural the lenses are, I think they're probably the best. It also comes with a lifestyle questionnaire. So Hoya actually know a lot about you when they make the lenses for you. It also factors in your age and the progressive lenses that you're used to wearing, so that they're not going to deviate too far from that based on how happy you are with the older design. So if you've worn a certain lens design really happily in the past and you want to replicate it, Hoya will basically do that, but bring it up to date with the most advanced technology. Hoya lenses are really good. The ID Myself is a really good lens, and I would recommend it. Now, we referred to Seiko, and Hoya now owns Seiko. They're part of the same group. What's Seiko's best lens? Well, that's called Seiko Brilliance. They describe it as a supreme progressive lens that changes the way we see multifocal vision entirely. I'm not sure about that. I don't think it's like game-changing or anything like that. I think they are high-quality lenses. Of course, you'd expect that from Seiko. They make lenses to an extreme amount of precision. I would say the sharpness is probably a little bit above Hoya, but there are a few key technologies in their Brilliance lenses. So there's in particular intelligence magnification control, and I like the concept of this. Most people have a different prescription in one eye than the other. And what if your progressive lenses could actually balance out that magnification so that it's not obvious which eye has the stronger prescription? It's obviously not going to cure it completely, but it does help to mitigate it, just to make your glasses look more natural. So that's a nice aesthetic benefit to these lenses. They also have something called digital zoom equalizer, which is basically the same principle, meaning that you get the same focus point on both sets of lenses. Next up, we've got Nikon, and Nikon is another one that's owned by Essilor. And if you go to the Nikon website, you actually can't find out what any of their lenses are called. Now that Essilor is basically in charge of them, are they going to really let Nikon be better than their own key brand? I don't think so. And maybe that's why there's a lack of information here, because it's a bit of a strange concept. They're probably the only big lens manufacturer that just includes no information online. So I guess if you're a Nikon optician, you would know all about them. I used to know a lot about Nikon because we used to recommend Nikon lenses a lot prior to that takeover. They had certain really good lenses like the Digilife, like the C-Max. I don't even know if they still exist because the website is blocked off. Next up, let's talk Rodenstock, the big competitor, the big German competitor to Zeiss. And Rodenstock make really, really good lenses. They actually mirror a lot of the technologies that you'll see in Zeiss. For example, they have their DNI scanner, which is very much like the eye profiler. Those technologies work in a similar way. The eye profiler or the DNI scanner basically takes into account more information about your eyes so that the lenses can be made more accurately. Rodenstock refer to that as something called Big Vision, which again is a bit of a lame name. It stands for Biometric Intelligent Glasses. And the idea is that your glasses are not just made to your prescription, but they're actually tailored around your eye biometrics. Now, that can either be provided by the DNI scanner, or they can work to averages based on your age, so they can, make assumptions about your eyes, which is still better than making no assumptions at all and just going completely on the default. So I think Rodenstock have made big strides over the last few years, and I think they're really catching up with Zeiss. And their top lens is called the Impression. The Impression progressive lens is very good in all areas. It gives extremely good clarity, but also natural vision in all distances. It's definitely one of the best progressive lenses out there, and I would highly recommend it. So whilst I said that Hoya's was the most tailor-made, yes, there's the most information provided in the manufacturing of them, but I think this information that's specific to Zeiss and Rodenstock about the biometrics of your eye, I think that outweighs the benefits that the Hoya lenses bring. Our penultimate lens brand is IoT. IoT I kind of think of as the people's lens brand. Their technology is completely open source. So they are a lens designer that doesn't actually make any lenses, and they're constantly innovating to try and improve how progressive lenses work, but they don't actually make them. What they do is they license those designs to independent labs all across the world where they can take them and do as they please. That means that getting an IoT lens, you have to be sure of the lab that's producing it and the quality that you're going to get, because an IoT lens design could be made in a really poor quality lab and a really good quality lab. That's the downside. But the upside is that you can customize an IoT lens in any way imaginable. So any color of tint, a bi-gradient tint, a tri-gradient tint. You could have 3 colors in one lens. You could add a photochromic in virtually any color. You can add a flash coating. You can create something completely one of a kind with an IoT lens. Their Endless Steady series gives extremely wide fields of view and a very steady feeling when on the move. They're just a great lens brand, and it's one that I'm working more and more closely with because of the opportunity that it opens up to be able to basically do anything. For my clients who want something one of a kind, IoT allows us to do that. And finally, did we leave the best to last? Zeiss. Now, as many of you know, I recommend Zeiss a lot. It's our partner brand that we work with very closely. Why is that? Well, unlike all of the lens brands that we've referred to in today's video, Zeiss has a company charter, which was actually created by Carl Zeiss himself, who founded the company 150 years ago, 175 years ago, a long time ago. And Carl Zeiss was actually a very egalitarian person and did a lot for workers' rights in Germany. And anyway, the foundation of this charter is that all profits from Zeiss products have to be reinvested to research for the betterment of humankind. That's a really beautiful thing. That means that any money that Zeiss makes straight away goes back into research, development, and innovation. And that's why they are such an innovative company. That's why they have the best-in-class products in camera lenses, telescopes, rifle scopes, binoculars, and spectacle lenses. Their newest generation of lenses is the Smart Life series, specifically the Smart Life Individual 3, which uses a plethora of innovative technologies. You've got AI in there, although they call it augmented intelligence because it's not just pure AI just kind of left to run rampant. There is a human element where they actually configure the lens for you on their end as well in accordance with the AI. It's got age intelligence, so the lenses are optimized based on your age and how that affects your visual behavior. And just like Rodenstock, they factor in lots of biometric data about you. If you're measured using the eye profiler, you will have your pupil size taken into account, You'll have your eye rotation taken into account, although otherwise they use an average eye rotation. And all of that goes on top of the Zeiss Smart Life technology itself, which was a groundbreaking piece of research that Zeiss did into modern day visual behavior and how we interact with digital screens at all distances. I wear Smart Life technology in all of my glasses, and it's the lens design that I recommend the most to my clients. They are extremely natural to wear, extremely clear. I would say the clarity with the Zeiss lens is higher than any other brand in the world. And they work so well for digital devices, which for most people is kind of what they need their glasses for. So Smart Life technology, I would give a 10 out of 10 for the Smart Life Individual 3. I think it's the best progressive lens design out there. I did save the best to last. And I think all of the lens designs that we've talked about in this video, they are good. So we're talking about the best of the best here. But Zeiss, I would say, it still is the best of the best. What do you think? Do you wear progressive lenses? Which ones do you wear and how do you find them? I'd love to know your thoughts. Let us all know in the comments below. Let's get a dialogue going. We'll share our ideas and our experience with different progressive lenses. If you found this video helpful or interesting, make sure to give us a like and subscribe for more of the best eyewear content on the internet. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks guys. Bye bye.